Welcome back. Chief Livhuwani Matsila of the Matsila Royal House in Limpopo believes that the relationship between traditional leaders and rural communities is key. He says communities trust leaders about how to combat COVID-19. Chief Matsila joins me now to talk about the role of traditional leaders during this pandemic. Thank you very much, Chief, for taking the time to speak to us. So, as you've rightfully said, traditional leaders do hold incredible power of influence over the communities they lead. So how can we harness that power effectively to help fight the pandemic, especially when we're seeing a lot of resistance from South Africans to government's regulations and their vaccination plans?
Yes, I think it is high time that we now must place traditional leaders at the center of the fight against the pandemic, especially here at local levels, because there's a lot of information that does not reach our areas or communities as timeously as we want that to happen. So it is important that government should work with us to decentralize the dissemination of information to make sure that we are well equipped with accurate information for our people.
What kind of information is falling through the cracks and not getting to people timeously?
I think if you look at the whole misinformation around the vaccine, people have got fears around the vaccine, and I think that's a product of miscommunication and misinformation by some elements in the social media. But if such information was to be given to traditional leaders to communicate with our communities in our own languages, we believe that that kind of information will be received much more better and properly, and actually people will be much more empowered to understand that the vaccine is there to help them, not to destroy our lives. We also have a situation of the use of traditional medicines by local people. Some people are now overusing and overdosing traditional medicine because of lack of knowledge. And we are saying that people must actually be encouraged to consult traditional healers and herbalists so that they can get proper information as to how best to use traditional medicine in the fight against COVID. You see, people are now over steaming more than 10 times a day, which actually, weakens your body and weakens your immune system. Such activities or actions are a result of lack of information from the authorities.
Do you think government has adequately engaged with traditional leaders to harness that power that you have in engaging with the communities to send them the right information?
Certainly there is a feeling amongst ourselves as traditional leaders that we are underutilized in the fight against COVID. We could be utilized much more effectively than currently, especially now, as I say, when going to roll out the vaccine and stepping up the fight against COVID-19, it is important that we strengthen our partnership with government and government entities that are behind these initiatives.
Religious practices have proved a sore point for many during the pandemic, as they cannot attend church as usual and cannot bury their loved ones with the usual traditional practices and ceremonies. How can traditional leaders help communities in that regard?
I think we must help people to modify their religious and cultural practices so that where you had mass prayers, you actually want to minimize the numbers to fewer people who could pray together as families or as a group of churchgoers. Even in terms of rituals, those rituals that will necessitate the whole family or community to come together, we have then to do that as individual families in our own spaces and continue to do the practice so that at least there's no gap within our spiritual and cultural lives.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Chief Livhuwani Matsila of the Matsila Royal House in Limpopo.